So Lauren, thank you for joining us today. We're going to have a little chat about your healing. Ooh, I almost knocked this over. Your healing journey with eczema, and where you started. Not understanding what had happened. I remember you said that you were on a wine tour with swimming, and you just thought it was a reaction to this
Yeah.
holiday. And then you finally realized that it was reactions to food. And then you went down the rabbit hole of restricting all the foods and then starting the program and realizing that did have an impact, but it was a lot more of what was happening inside. Also, that brain skin connection as well. So, really excited. And I think a lot of people will get a lot out of hearing where you started, and it's really amazing. I was just saying before how great it is to see you just like glowing, new haircut, new job. Yeah. Yeah,
It
have
works.
your life back.
Yeah.
Yeah, from where you started. And I think what you didn't even leave the house for months, I think. Is that
No,
right?
like I would say I didn't leave the house for about 3.5 months, like which is so unlike me. I get literally so I've had eczema my whole life, like, but it was always just like, that kind of bit on your hands, like maybe a bit on my neck if I was stressed, like nothing too major. And as a lot of people, I was just given steroid creams, put those on, and like I never thought too much about it. I just kind of did what I was told, kind of thing. My dad had always been kind of like, just be careful, like those things thin your skin. But like I didn't even think of, okay, my skin might be a bit thin. Like I didn't really think of like anything further than that. So I was a bit cautious. And I remember even going to my doctor like years ago, and I said that to him. I was like, I'm just kind of worried because I think I used to get it above my lips here, like around my lips, and certainly would flare there a bit. And he said, oh, but your skin gets so thickened that it's fine. You can just put that steroid cream on because it doesn't matter if it's thinning it. So I didn't ever really like to put it on my face, probably because my dad had that kind of in my head of like thinning your skin kind of thing. But I would use it on my body, never really thought too much about it. And then, but it would only be sporadically, like nothing major, never too bad. And then I moved to Canada when I was 25. And I just found, obviously, I was living with friends. We were drinking a lot every weekend, like going out. So, like, sleep wasn't great, and a lot of fast food and treats and things like that. And then, obviously, the pandemic happened as well, like after my first year here. So, you had like kind of the stress on top of that as well. Like, I was far away from home and, all that kind of things associated with it. So, I found as time went on, my skin started to get more and more severe. Like I would get flares more often, and it kind of got to the stage where I'd go to the doctor here. They don't have a family doctor, so you just go to like an online clinic or something, like on Zoom, and he would say, take this oral steroid, or here's this steroid cream, and I would just go and get it. And I never thought too much about it, but it started to get more frequently, and I'd find that like nearly once every month I was getting this flare and needing to put the steroid cream on, which would be like, I was like, this is like a magic cream and it would work. And then I'd be back to square one a couple of weeks later. So I started actually on TikTok to see about like topical steroid withdrawal, and kind of just, I didn't really know what that was. And then I kind of obviously fell down the rabbit hole of it and started seeing more and more things online, which then I was like, okay, I don't want to be using these creams anymore. So I had made that decision, and a friend of mine had been to a naturopath for her skin before. So I said I would try that because we went away last June to like wine country here. And we were drinking wine and all this nice food for like the whole weekend. But we were also swimming in the pool in the hotel, and my skin started to flare. And I remember my back was just like so bad and so painful. But I did just think, oh, it's the swimming pool, obviously, even though I've swum before and it's been fine and I've never got a reaction, but I just thought sometimes it must be the chlorine. So anyway, it got very bad. And then just progressively over the summer, it didn't seem to be healing. So it was getting worse and worse. And my naturopath, I remember we did like an IgG like blood test. And I was so committed to like, I'm not using the steroid creams again. And then we did this blood test, and she came back with basically every food that I had to cut out. Like, and I'm such a foodie, so like it was very hard for me. So I cut out just the standards like gluten, dairy, basically all berries, like certain vegetables. My diet was so restricted. Like I went to basically just eating like some porridge, like oatmeal in the morning, and then salmon and potato and like Brussels sprouts for dinner. Basically, like that was my complete diet, like nothing in between. And my skin was just still getting worse and worse. And I'd cut out all this food thinking this is going to be it now. It's going to heal and I'm going to be perfect and whatever. And maybe I'll stay on this diet forever. But it just continued to get worse. And I remember there was one day it was so painful. I had another like FaceTime call with her and she just told me, oh, just drink some peppermint tea because it will be cooling for your body. And you just have to persevere. It's going to sort itself out. So I remember I was like crying on the call because I was just in so much pain. So I'm like, okay. So of course I went and like stocked up on all this peppermint tea and I was drinking it. And I remember just, it was getting worse and worse. And I remember saying to my boyfriend at the time, I was like, I swear the peppermint tea is making me itchy. And like, that's the thing that she's told me to do. And I think she'd given me like one supplement, like a cod liver oil kind of supplement, but like that was it. And it was just a like generic, whatever. So it got progressively worse and worse to the point I didn't want to leave the house. It was my whole body basically was just starting to spread everywhere, which I'd never really experienced before. And it got to the point where showering was like torture. I would dread having to do that because it was just so painful. I couldn't even wear clothes because all around my neck here was just so sore that even to put a t-shirt or have anything resting on my chest was just so painful. So I basically ended up in the apartment. I couldn't barely move. I slept on the floor of my apartment living room for about 2 months because just even moving in and out to the bedroom, like I just was basically stuck in the one spot for like nonstop. Wasn't able to wear clothes. So and my boyfriend basically became like my carer, like having to cook all dinners for me. And he was working and stuff like that as well. And obviously it was difficult that I didn't want to leave the house and kind of withdrew from my friends a lot as well. And even just calling family at home, I just didn't really want to see anybody, or because it definitely had like a huge effect on me mentally as well, of course. And I was just so embarrassed by how I looked because it was on my face everywhere. And I wasn't used to that, it being that extreme. So my family obviously got quite worried and I was getting quite sick. I ended up losing like 40 pounds in about 6 to 8 week period. Yeah, which is like a lot. Yeah.
That is, wow.
Yeah. Silver lining of it all, but not ideal.
Oh. Yeah, not in a healthy way.
No.
Yeah.
So so I was feeling so ill. I wasn't sleeping. I remember like one night I hadn't slept in weeks, like maybe an hour tops per night. I was just like sitting on the floor in my apartment, like so itchy, just in agony everywhere, just like crying. And I was like, I can't keep doing this. Like it was just so exhausting. I still find it even hard to talk about it. It was just like so hard. So anyway, my family were quite worried and we ended up just deciding it was the best thing that I just went home because I was just getting very sick and I had like chills in my body, everything. I was just very unwell, which my eczema had never been that bad throughout my life that I kind of even knew to notice the signs of an infection or anything like that. So I went home, flew home to Ireland. And I remember when I got there, like my family were obviously so worried just to see the state I was in and everything. Like it was just so bad. And I remember even like sitting on the plane with like the sun shining in, like my skin was peeling and just so cut. And I was so uncomfortable, but trying to hide it so people around me couldn't see. So anyway, I got home and was still very sick. So we ended up, my doctor kind of booked me in very quickly because we called to say like I just was not well, and went over and he basically said that like my body was like ravaged with an infection basically. And he was like, if we let this go, like your organs are basically nearly starting to shut down, like it's bad. So I was hyper then because of course they're saying you need to use steroids and I did not want to use them. Like, and I think it was hard for like my family to understand, to see me in the way I was, where I'd never been. I was so ill and so distraught and just still like, I was so adamant, like I will not use the steroids, when that's what the doctor's saying. We need to put you on these oral steroids and we need to have you use this cream. So I had found you online through my deep diving research and I was in the black hole. I feel like a tip to anyone, like try not to fall down that black hole, because I definitely did that, of like Googling everything. Like I was obsessed with reading everything about topical steroid withdrawal, and I had myself convinced like this is what I'm having, like that's what it is for me right now. And I remember even my first call with you, like, do you think that's what I have? And I was just so like terrified of like what to expect and what was to come kind of thing.
There's so much fear when
So
you
much
start
fear.
researching. Yeah.
Yeah. And I could not stop. And everyone was saying, like, you need to stop reading that stuff. And I found like documentaries, everything. And I just could not stop. Like, because obviously, like, my whole life was revolving around my skin at this point, that like I would just wanted to find every bit of information that I could. So I know we started our protocol then, which we kind of looked at different, like my background and things like that. And that was kind of the start of like reintroducing foods, because I know you were so like adamant, like we need to get foods back into your diet, where like previously I'd been told like, let's take out all the food that you have. So, and I definitely like, even by just cutting out so much food, like developed such a bad relationship with food from like, I used to be such a foodie, and then I had such a fear to eat anything of like, no, this is going to make it so much worse. Or because I was still so inflamed, I'd eat something to try like a tiny piece, and I think that's what's making me itchy. Like I can't eat that again. I'd cut it out again. So definitely had a huge effect on me mentally. But I think through working with you, and we kind of got to like my root cause of different things, such as like the alcohol, the fast food, stress, different things like that. And kind of we were able to pinpoint that it wasn't just all these foods that I couldn't eat, that it was like salicylates was a sensitivity that I would get, which I had never thought. Like foods like tomato or like acidic things, I would get the lip tingle, that classic kind of swelling around, but like thought, oh, that's just my eczema just flaring up, like never kind of associate it with, okay, it's obviously this thing. So just learning more about that like flare up bucket and the different aspects of it. And for me, it was definitely a slower process. Like I wasn't even able to be on the calls every week just because of the like mental toll that it took on me. Like I did find the whole thing just so traumatic of like, you know, just being so sleep deprived and in pain. And I did develop like quite severe like depression and anxiety just related to it all. So just kind of working slowly through it at my own pace was kind of helpful as well. But just getting that information and learning about these things that were happening in my body, because I just didn't know. And I'd go into my doctors at home and they're like, you need to use the steroids, like this is ridiculous, like this food thing, and you kind of need to basically like just get over it and use it. And then of course like everybody around me is seeing me so upset, just saying you have to trust the doctors. And you know, I was like, but I just don't want to use them. So, and I remember agreeing to use them for a while, and like my mom had to do it for me because I couldn't do, I didn't want to look at it being put on or anything like that. It was just like, I just didn't want to be using them. I just developed such a fear. And like, don't get me wrong, I still totally understand. Like sometimes you are that desperate that you do just need that kind of solution, you know, that quick fix. But I think just over the time, it just getting that like knowledge about the different aspects, like the food sensitivities, where I was on birth control for like 11 years. So coming off that, and then I didn't know that it's not normal to have like sore boobs and sore back and cramps every month and things like that. So I think like just getting that information, I'm like, okay, that's not normal to be this way. So this is what's going on. This is what's causing it. And this is how we can, you know, repair it. So just that like hormonal side of it, the food sensitivities, and then just using a huge thing for me, I was thinking about today, was like just having food as medicine, because that's something even like I've noticed now where my mindset has changed so much, where before it was like, okay, I need to cut out this food because this is giving me a reaction. Where now it's like, okay, I'm getting a little bit itchy now, or I have a little bit of a patch of something here. So I need to start, like, maybe it's my liver's overworked. I need to add in like cruciferous vegetables again, or get up my fiber intake now. Like I kind of know to use. And like, I remember at one stage, even like years ago, like my doctor had said, you can take up to 4 or 5 antihistamines a day if you need to. So I was eating them like sweets at this, like before at the start of this, like last May, June, because I was just getting so itchy all the time, and didn't think like this is obviously going to be wreaking havoc in my gut. Because I'm just like, oh, I'm still itchy, I'm going to pop another one. Like I was just
like, oh, this is easy.
I'm spending so much money on antihistamines. So,
which actually that's interesting too, because if you think at like when we're looking back, if you think of how did I get to this point,
Yeah.
So obviously like lifestyle, right? It's like, you know, you can
Yeah.
push yourself with eating all those foods, but if you're also having all those antihistamines that suppressing your gastric acid, then all
Yeah.
of a sudden you have these food sensitivities popping up. So there's all this impact. And then you've had a history of painful periods and obviously
Yeah.
like a hormone imbalance, which you just suppressed with birth control.
Yeah.
So yeah, it starts to make sense.
Yeah, it all was just making sense. And I feel like even like online, I started to notice like in the last year, so like a lot of like girls my age are kind of talking about birth control, how like the effect that it does have on your body. Because again, I was given it by my doctor when I was 16 and like never even thought like, oh, what if there are side effects on my body? It just was like, okay, I'm just going to take this now.
It was
So
a
like
thing that you did. Everybody did.
yeah, I never even thought about it. And then I kind of was
Yeah.
like, okay, I've been on this for so long now that when I started to learn more about it again, like the side effects it have, I wanted to get off that as well. And like that was definitely a big part of my healing process too, is like that hormonal thing. And I remember just like that list of all the different things that can affect like your gut health. And I was like, every single one of them I had. I was like, yep, that was all me. Yeah. So just kind of learning that like healing from within, like that food is medicine. And I know in the group we talk about like your morning routines and nighttime routines, which like I was so bad for, like such a night owl, like would be up scrolling on my phone till all hours. And it is hard as well when you're in that inflamed, painful state and like everybody else is asleep. I like naturally you just go on your phone because it's just the only distraction that can kind of take your mind off it. So I kind of found that as I healed and like was starting to sleep more like that, having that routine was so critical to that, of like switching off the screens like an hour or two before bed and trying to like read a book or do something else to tire myself out, and not staying in bed too late then, because obviously I was unable to work. I ended up having to leave my job. So I had like no routine. I was just here basically trying to just sleep whenever I could. So like it really did take over my whole life, like every aspect. Like socially, I didn't see my friends in such a long time, and my brother was getting married while I was home in Ireland. And I remember like, which that would have been something I would have looked forward to for so long. I didn't even want to go because I just didn't want to see everybody, and I was like worried about what I would look like. And it was just like, I remember even the day I went, it was so tough to even be there, like, and which is terrible now. And I think about like my brother's wedding, I had to like take little breaks every once in a while just to go back to my room, just because mentally like I had been just in such a bad space because of my skin. So I think it's just important to like, during the program I kind of just learned about, there's so many different factors, but they are so connected, of like your gut and your brain skin connection, like it all has such an effect. And when I think back about it now, like, and I totally get like, when your skin is bad, you don't want to see anybody. And like, it's natural to just think, I'm just going to cancel this plan until it's better. But mine went on for so long where I thought, okay, I'm not going to see anybody, that it actually had such an effect on me mentally as well, that probably made it worse. Because one of my big turning points, I remember even the calls we did with Karen about that, meant the brain skin connection, and practicing like your breathing, things like that, just kind of helped me to get back to myself and feel uncomfortable to take small steps to see friends again. And I noticed even like, I've only just started seeing my friends again really the last like 6 weeks to 2 months or so. And it's like, once I started to do that, I feel like it was just like such a turning point for me, of like, once I got that mental thing back of like seeing friends and being able to kind of enjoy life again, like even just small parts, it had such an effect on my healing, because I had myself so distraught and worked up that like my body was not in a state to heal. Like I physically couldn't heal because I was sleep deprived. I was food sensitivities all over the place, and just so mentally distraught that I was just inflamed in every sense, that, you know, I wasn't letting myself heal. So getting that like routine, seeing people, deep breathing, and I started doing some yoga just at home, things like that, just like calmed my nervous system, which is again like the vagus nerve, all that stuff that I had never heard of before. I'm like, okay, I need to calm this down and do this. And like the cold shower is like, you know, different techniques like that. Just kind of all came together to help my body heal. And I think that's like so important. Of a lot of us have our food sensitivities and hormonal issues and things like that, but your mental state is so important. And I think just allowing yourself to, like, everybody has such hard days, and it is so tough to be in such pain all the time like that, and so itchy, and it gets just overwhelming. But if you just try and keep yourself calm, I feel like that was a huge thing for me, to just like practice that kind of meditation and self-care to just let my body rest and heal, because it did like get me through those such tough few months that you need to just be kind to yourself as well. So I feel like that was definitely a huge help for me.
Yeah, it's that, like, that's spot on, because there's all these things that you can't control, right?
Yeah.
There's a point where you're so inflamed that it doesn't matter what you do, right? It doesn't matter what you eat. It doesn't matter, like, in that moment what you think, like nothing's going to change it. But then if you can focus on what you can control, like you said, like the routines, then that's just mentally such a good shift. And across the board, everybody says as soon as they start going out again and seeing their friends and connecting, like their skin feels better. But like you said, I get it. You hide at home, but
it's like natural to hide. But like what I notice, like when you are at home, you're obviously like, it's all you're thinking about, and you kind of let yourself be consumed by it, which then you kind of do get itchy then more you're thinking about it. Because even I've only just started a new job last month, and I've kind of noticed since I started, because I'm busy again during the day, like I'm not even itchy, where if I'm sitting at home I would be, because I was just like that kind of flashlight thinking, like just focusing on my skin, where now it's like I'm busy and I'm not thinking about it, so the itch has gone down as well, which is interesting to show just how like your brain does have such a powerful effect. Where like I was looking at like I had to like delete all my social media for a long time. I couldn't look at anything skin related, because different people's opinions, just it does get like difficult sometimes when you don't know what's the right thing to do. So I was looking at something, and like I'm in such a better state now, like my skin is so healed, like I've come so far from where I was. But I noticed when I was looking on Instagram for the first time at like just some eczema skin pages there the other day, just to kind of ease myself back into not being like triggered by it, I noticed that I started to get itchy. And I was like, it just shows when you're like thinking about it, focusing about it, and just getting like, you get stressed even subconsciously without even noticing that it makes you itchy. And like that was like such a click for me of like, that just shows like your brain has such a big impact on it, and like can really affect how like that itchiness and things like that, how it comes like psychologically too.
Yeah, you can literally think your way into a flare up. And this is the thing where people, like, when people come home, it's like those from work, they'll start getting itchy, or they'll get really, really highly stressed and they'll get itchy, or they'll get itchy and red, then they'll do breath work and then they can see it coming down, which is like all direct effects of just like that brain skin connection. Which,
or even like trying new food. I remember you said before of like sometimes being stressed about trying the food can cause a reaction rather than the food itself. So like for me, because I have spent the last couple of months reintroducing foods and things like that, sometimes I would be itchy, but I've made such a point the last while to think, be totally calm about it. You're going to try this. If it happens, you'll see if you get an itch. And I found that when I don't overthink it or just eat it and not think about it, it's been so fine. Where there's been one or two things that I was definitely more nervous to try, I find that when I'm thinking about it, like straight away I'll get hives or something, because it's like I put myself in that panic, like fight or flight mode of I'm going to get a reaction from this. So it's like just kind of shows that keeping yourself like calm and like just breathing, or even like I found the tapping quite good as well. It's like just a distraction just takes your mind off it, and like just shows how much like how powerful it can be. So
yeah, and people don't realize that stress creates that inflammation. Like having that high stress actually triggers histamine in your brain, and it creates like, and it, as you can see, when you're in a chronic state, you get hives, right? That's inflammation. Yeah, and histamine response. And just from your thoughts, it's like wild to see that connection. But I think when you can start seeing the connections of, okay, maybe it's food, okay, it's stress, okay, if I start healing my gut, okay, I can be reintroducing these different foods. If I can change my relationship with food, okay, I can actually introduce it without getting flared. It's a
definitely. And even just like that mindset thing of like for food, like to reintroduce it, it's like it's so important to shift your mindset from being like afraid of foods to, and I literally only thought of this the other day of like, because it just like automatically, I was like, okay, I feel like my gut's not in the best condition at the minute because I've been having a few treats, like need to up the fiber again. I'm going to have oats and chia seeds today and flax seeds. And I'm like, I kind of noticed myself like, oh, that's the first time that I've like, rather than saying, oh, let's go and have 4 antihistamines, I'm going to use this food to kind of help just get myself back on track again before it gets to the point of a flare. So
well done. And that's the aim of the game, right? Because it's okay, you're tuned with your body. I can notice that my gut isn't happy, right? You might be noticing some symptoms. How can I workshop that before it turns into the flare up?
Yeah.
Well done,
and that's
Lauren.
been such a thing awesome. Because before it would have been, oh, my back is completely flared. I don't know why. I'm going to put this cream on and then it will be good, like be gone. Where now it's like, I'm starting to feel an itch. It's probably because I ate this salicylate thing yesterday, or I've been a bit stressed this week. So let's work on that, because I know exactly now what my kind of triggers are. So now I know how to workshop it and heal before it even gets to the point of a full flare where I would need, or even to think about having to use a cream. So yeah.
Cool. And how is that for you? How has that changed life?
It's just so nice. And even like, it's great because like, just, I've never had that experience of like being so in tune with my body to know, right, this is starting now, where before I'd be like, oh, I'm a bit itchy. And then it would just develop over days into a flare, where now I'm like, I feel like I've learned so much, and I'm like gut obsessed. I'm like, my nighttime reading now is like a gut book. So I'm like all about it.
Love it.
Yeah, I'm like always telling everyone, like, do you know about your gut health? So
you're a good advocate.
Definitely. But yeah, I feel like it's just like, I found it so interesting, and like there's just so many things that I just honestly didn't have a clue about before, like never thought of, and like that I've learned so much now, and I am just so more kind of in tune with my own body and what I need, and you know, how to fix it if something does come up, or you know, what's going on kind of thing, where before I was a bit in the dark, just like, this is just happening and I don't know why. Maybe it's from a swimming pool, or maybe it's this, where now I'm like, no, this is exactly what it is.
Yeah, nice. And so going from a point where you didn't leave the house for months, you had to sleep on the floor. So what is life different like for you now?
It's just like, I actually just even get emotional like talking about it. Me and my boyfriend call those like the dark times. That's how we refer to it. So it's like just been so nice. And I'm still getting there. Like it is like such a slow process, but like just to be happy every day, because I was just like totally became a shell of myself, and like my skin was bad, like my hair had fallen out in clumps, like I had bald spots because of like just all that stress and everything. And of course, just being a girl as well, like I was just so like not something else on top of the skin as well. So I feel like it's just helped like my confidence as well, like just really get back to like feeling like myself. And it's like allowed me to get back into work, which is like something I've been like so grateful for, and like has been just such a game changer again for like mentally, to just be back in routine and just living my life again. Because I really feel like I missed out like months of my life just purely because of my skin, where now I'm like pretty confident that like that's never going to happen again, because I know my triggers and I know kind of how to workshop them. So yeah, I'm getting there.
That's cool. And yeah, like you said, it is a journey, and it is just about like understanding how's my body reacting and having the tools. And that's like the whole idea of the program, is so that you can do it on your own, right? You don't need to be in the program all the time. You have the tools, and yeah, now you're an advocate to tell other people.
But even just like, I would just say to people as well to just be patient. Like I understand like it's so frustrating and it does take over your life, and just you want a quick fix, and you want, like, I remember like I would cry every night, like I just wanted to wake up in the morning and just be gone, and I'd do anything for it to be gone. But like you need to just be kind to yourself and just like let your body heal and do what you can. And like some days are going to be like so much harder than others, but like I'm a testament of it. Like you will get there in the end. Like it might take, like I probably took a lot longer than other people in the program, because I had that mental block that did kind of keep me back and just made my journey a bit slower. But you will get there.
Yeah. And that's good words of wisdom, because either people maybe who aren't in a program yet, they're still struggling, or people that are just getting started. It's really hard because at the beginning you're trying to do all the things, right? Yeah. And you're like, okay, I'm doing all these things, but I'm not seeing an outcome yet. And I think it is really powerful to understand that it does take time. And when you are consistent, it's all those 1%ers add up. And everybody, they'll hit that turning point where everything starts falling into place. And they're like, whoa, everything just starts shifting right away.
Yeah. And I feel like even the group is so good of like, just to see other people are going through the same experience. And like, because I feel like for a lot of people, like it's hard to understand if you don't have eczema. Like people just think, oh, it's just a rash, like it's not that bad. Or like I'd say, or like some people are probably like don't understand like how like I could have been out of work for so long because of just some eczema. Like how could that happen? But like it really can be so debilitating. And it's so nice to be in the group to just have that support of like, okay, like everybody understands exactly how it feels and like what you're going through. And but also like, while it's so amazing to have that support and feel like other people can relate, I think it's also important not to like compare your journey to other people's timeline, because you can be like, okay, so like this is like they're seeing better results and whatever, but like you do get there. It's just that everyone's body is so different and your triggers and different things are going to be different. But like once you workshop them and give your body the chance to respond to it and heal, like you will get there.
Yeah. And that is a thing too. And it's an interesting pattern just to like, to start noticing with yourself. It's like, okay, am I comparing myself to something, or do I have these expectations that I should be here? But, you know, if we like look at the big picture, okay, that timeline, always having hormone imbalances. And then, just, you know, a lifestyle that didn't serve your gut at the time. So, and then, because at the time, like, you're always a little bit in denial because you don't want to quit the food and your lifestyle. But when like it takes hitting rock bottom, and then you're like, okay, I can totally understand it.
Completely. And like I can still have the things I enjoy. Like I'm back eating pretty much most foods. Like there's still some certain like berries I'm kind of still working my way up with tolerance wise, but like it's just to get there of like enjoying it again, and you know, not having that fear. And like it is just important to not let it take over your life and just enjoy yourself. And because you know it can easily just become like your whole world. But you will get there.
Yeah. And I think that your journey is really powerful because you went from being like a very social person, and then like because of the eczema, it really, really, you know, like took you down. And then it is actually like, from my observation with working with so many people, if people do slip into, you know, a challenging place, it does take a little bit longer to heal. And it is always that shift in the mindset, which helps bring them out of it, which is interesting just to see the connection. But like you said, somebody who's never had eczema, they don't realize, they're like, you can't go to work because of your skin. They don't realize how debilitating.
That's frustrating too, of like, I felt like I had to like justify or like explain kind of thing, because like people just don't understand. And that's why I'm kind of so, I probably like before I would have just hid away about it, where now I'm kind of like, I feel like it's important to just try and explain to people because they just don't understand or like realize. Like even my boyfriend, we were talking about it yesterday, and he was just saying like, even from his perspective, like obviously he doesn't have it. Like before seeing what I went through, like he never would have understood or recognized like how debilitating it can be and like the effect it can have on your life. So I think it's just kind of, it's nice to have that community where people do understand, but also like just go at your own pace and like do what you can, not worry about like other people being like, it's just a rash or whatever, because they just don't understand.
Yeah. And it is a subjective experience too. Because some people are like, oh, my rashes aren't as bad as this person, but it's how it affects you. That's the impactful part of it. And like you said, being in a community where you're hearing other people's experience, obviously you don't want to see other people struggling, but it helps you normalize your situation, that it's not just me, right? It's not something that's wrong with me. It's like, it's quite common, you know, and
I definitely had that like so embarrassed about it, like, oh my God, like it's gross. Like I literally, like when the apartment, like we couldn't have lights on here, like we had the mirrors covered up. Like to be honest, I'm still just getting used to even like brushing my teeth in front of the mirror again. Like that's something I'm still finding hard with, because I just had myself in such a state that like I wouldn't look at anything. I wanted the place dark so I couldn't see my skin. Like I couldn't even just look at it. So yeah, it just had a big toll, definitely.
And that's something that's like, somebody who's never had eczema, right? when you talk about, you just want to do these normal things, which for most people is just like, oh, I have to do an annoying errand or something. But if you've had eczema, like leaving the house, right, is big. Looking in the mirror and not
having
getting like
a shower
a big
without pain.
having a shower without pain, you know?
Like that was one thing I used to cry about so much, because like there were so many showers, like when it was bad, that I would just like, I'd be in agony crying through the whole thing. And I remember just being so upset, like just saying like, I just wish I'd do anything to be able to have a shower and just not be in pain from it. So it's like, just to see how far I've come then, where like my skin was so dry, and like I had every cream that is on the market, I tried it. Like I got things shipped from Australia, I've tried Irish ones, Canadian, like you name it, I've tried it. And like my skin would just soak everything up, and 10 minutes later it was dry again. Where now I use like a moisturizer now, where probably at its worst I was going through like 2-3 a week, where now like I've had the one I have there for like a couple of weeks, and like I just moisturize after my shower, and it's like no big deal. Where like my life was just all day moisturize, and an hour later
lather.
Just lying like on a towel with like covered in cream. So
yeah. And it's that having that confidence in your body. So it's like, okay, my skin went from being so dry, I would soak up all of this cream. I couldn't eat all these foods. And now you've been able to see, okay, my body can heal. And so if you do, and it gives you the confidence too. So then if you do get another itch, you don't go into like, that's a work in progress, because sometimes you're going to have that response, like, am I going back to that place? But when you have that confidence, and you know, you'll get an itch here and there, but then you're like, oh, I know what to do. Just like you said, okay, maybe it's this food, it's my routines. And the more that happens, the more confidence you get, and you're like, I got this. You know?
And then because I think you have that knowledge, you can even just plan. Like it was one of my friend's birthdays yesterday, so we were going to like an Italian restaurant, which is like a lot of tomato based things, which for me, I was like, like before I'd be like, no way, like I can't have tomato. Where I kind of knew like, okay, I'm gonna have my like nice like gut supporting foods for the days before, so that when I can go, I can have like a big bowl of tomato pasta and not be worried. And if I do get a bit of an itch, it won't be so bad, because my flare bucket's not that full up. And I even like had a glass of wine for the first time in like a year yesterday. So that was like a big deal for me. And I was like, don't panic about it, don't overthink it, just enjoy yourself. And it was fine.
Oh, Lauren, yay!
Yeah, it's very exciting.
Oh, that's so good. And I'm like, the nutrition. So I'm proud of you. I'm just really happy, because that's an exciting place. Because I know you like to have a drink, and you got to socialize and be normal with your friends. So that's amazing. And the nutritionist part of me is like, great, well done for like thinking about how can I support my gut before I go there.
I think like that's the thing now. It's like where before I was probably so excessive with the like alcohol and like fast food and treats, where now I'm like, I'll still have it every once in a while. Like I'm not restricting myself, but it's like, okay, I need to be like mostly eating like, you know, I like to eat like organic or like whole foods now basically, and just like gut friendly foods, and then have your treat, where it's not like having a Big Mac meal like 3 times a week.
And you might have vegetables once or twice.
Now I'm craving Brussels sprouts instead of Big Macs.
Oh, I love it. And for a lot of people, they're like, and probably if it was like your old self before eczema, you're like, oh, I would never want to do that or be like that. But you realize
like, never would I do that. And like I would like a lot of vegetables, I would like, like I don't like, not, I was never bad with food. Like I would eat vegetables, but like probably not as good as I am now. And like right now I find like I'll go to the shop and I'm like, okay, need to try a new vegetable this week, like for the good, like diversity, and you know, what am I going to have this week to try? So it's like, I honestly, like I was such a like McDonald's lover and like nights out and things like that. So even just to see that difference in myself now of like, where I'll still treat myself, I'm not restricting, but just to have that mindset of like, okay, I need to have this food to like nourish my body and use it as medicine, and just enjoying like healthy food and cooking like a lot more than I would have before.
Cool. Yeah. And it's just, you create that blueprint because you just feel better. You just have more energy, like your skin and your hair look better, like eczema aside. It's just,
because even I remember before, so I'm a teacher, And I would have always had to have a nap when I came. I was known for being like the nap queen. I would always be napping, just felt so sluggish all the time. And like, couldn't tell you the last time I had a nap, because I feel like just since I like tidied up my diet and stuff like that, that it's just, I feel I have so much more energy, and I can just know now, like, okay, if I'm having too much sugar or something ever, I'll get a, you know, bit of a sugar crash or whatever. Now I know it's like how so related it is. So
nice.
yeah.
And when we were chatting, when you finished the program, you said this is the first time in your life that you hadn't had period pain.
Yeah, I couldn't get over it. Like I used to have such bad like breast pain and like my lower back and cramps. And then we started doing the seed cycling, and I remember like the first month where I was like, this is so weird, like not one symptom. It just like came and went, and like I wouldn't have known otherwise. Like there was like no symptoms. So I'm like, okay, this is how it's supposed to be. So it's funny now if anyone's like mentioning like, oh, I'm like have bad cramps, I'm like, you know, that's not normal. Like you shouldn't have any signs.
I love it.
I'm so annoying.
But everybody's benefiting.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I know. My friends are like, okay, another nutrition thing. I'm like, okay, sorry.
I'm like, it's so interesting.
Yeah, but it is though. Like when you're in a level of pain your whole life, like with period pain, it's a week, every month, like more or less, and like that's like a couple months in a year where you're in pain. Yeah, and you just think that that's normal because it's what you've already always lived with.
And I noticed even like last month, I kind of slipped with I was doing like the seed cycling, and I just with going back to work and things like that, I was so busy that I did let that side of it kind of like drop a little bit. And then I noticed that I was getting some symptoms. So it's like, okay, I need to get back on that. So it's like, again, I'm listening to my body, like I'm starting to get a little bit of symptoms, need to get back on my seed cycling to just like support that hormonal kind of side of it. So yeah.
Well done, Lauren.
Thank you so much. Honestly, like the program has just been like such a savior for me, and like just got me through such a hard time. And I feel like it's really just like helped me to not have that fear that like I'm going to ever go back to that place again. So, which is like just so nice to have that kind of reassurance. And that's really down to just like the knowledge that I got from the program and the support and everything. So thank you.
Good. You're welcome. Well, thank you for taking the chance, starting the program. It's obviously challenging times, you're reading those peak flares. So well done for sticking with it, being consistent, and now being on the other side, and we can talk about your journey. And like that's something
like
in the past.
Like I couldn't even talk about it. It's only now, like in the last couple of weeks, that I can even talk. Like I would just cry if I even brought it up. So it's like just being kind to yourself, having patience, and like you will get there. I find like now I'm just talking about it so much more openly that it's kind of just helping me kind of just heal and kind of move on from that kind of period and just look forward.
So. Yeah. And that's an important part too, is that creating a dialogue, because for so long you don't talk about it and you hide it. The more that you talk about it, normalize it, this is something that happened, it's you don't have that same response, right? Because you can feel in your body, you can feel that activation. So well done, Lauren. Thank you so much for sharing your journey. This is definitely helpful for a lot of people, because there's so many people that are in that space or just starting their healing journey. So it's always nice to hear about somebody who's on the other side, who's done the healing, and just and just seeing like so much vibrancy from you is just great. And just seeing that shift and like having your life back and have a new job and all those things. So well done.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your journey.
Yeah, no worries at all.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll end it there. So well done. How are you feeling?
Good. Yeah, like on it, I thought I was gonna cry at the start. Like I literally, it's only like the last couple of weeks, and you know what? I found even like to start my new job, I was like so nervous to like talk about it, because obviously it's like just it might come up or whatever. And I have made it kind of a point, you know, people are like, oh, when is the last time you were at home, or where were you working before this, or like why did you leave the school mid-year? Like I was so nervous, but like now I'll literally just explain exactly what happened, and people are so understanding about it. So I find like it's getting easier and easier to talk about now, and it's like something I'm trying to do, because I can see it's like helping me myself to just like be open about it rather than like having all these worries about like different aspects of it. So
yeah. And that's also just interesting to notice those patterns. So how you can work something up in your head, but as soon as you say it, like, oh, people aren't judging me.
Yeah.
Like they're actually really supportive.
Which is what everybody told me all along, but you know, when it's just in your head, you're like, oh. So
totally. Well done. And thank you for sharing your journey.
Thanks so much.
I will, because for people, when you do talk about it, I mean, you've been talking about it for a little bit. If it's still like light outside, maybe go for a walk, maybe do some breathing just to kind of bring yourself back down.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it can be a lot of emotion.
Read my gut book.
Read your gut book. Look, what book are you reading?
It's called The Gut Stuff. It's like it was written by two identical twins who they were like chosen to be part of a research study about gut health years ago. But then when they were in it, they got so interested in it, they end up studying like nutrition and things. So they've written this book that like makes like gut health and all the like fancy lingo. They put it in like kind of layman's terms, so it's like easy to understand. But I'm like so obsessed. I went into the shop and I was like, I want like 5 gut books. Like have a list that I want.
Give them out to everybody. That's everybody's birthday present.
Honestly, like literally my new manager in work, I've been on to her about it and like, and this supplement's great for this and that.
Oh, that's good. The gut, I think it's called the gut brain connection, is a really good one too.
Okay, I'll check that out because there were so many of them and I was like, I don't know which ones to get. I'll try that next.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, Lauren, and keep in touch if you do need anything, if anything ever pops up, definitely let me know.
Perfect. Thank you so much for everything.
You're welcome. Bye, Lauren.
Bye.